My name is Makali Pennycooke, and this is your weekly stop for all things sports culture, entertainment, and everything you need about sports. Yours truly, Makali Pennycooke, back with another episode. It's been a while, but here I am on a weekly. This is going to be a weekly based podcast, and I can't wait to show what I got. So let's go. So let's get into it. And talking about the NFL, week 18, it was a big week for the NFL, the final week of the season. And let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. It was the biggest game of the entire season. Both teams are, 14-2. It was the final game of Detroit, battle for the number one seed and the NFC North division. Sunday Night Football. And the winner got the number one seed, got the bye, gets the division. And the loser, unfortunately had to, lose the game at 14-3, which sucks. And they have to now go on the road for the wild card. And that was obviously the Vikings. And let's unpack this game. Now, when I watched this game, a lot of things stood out to me. Aaron Glenn is going to be a head coach in the National Football League with so much, adversity that he's been dealing with his defensive side of the ball. It was so impressive to see, his high risk, high reward game plan. Because coming into this week, the Vikings were a top offense in the NFL. Sam Darnold was on a heater the entire season, resurrected his entire career. I think it's like 35 touchdowns with like 4,000 passing yards, with Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson coming back from the ACL. It's been one of the best seasons of his career, and especially Kevin O'Connell, who's going to win the Coach of the Year, by the way. He came into this game with an attitude. I'm going to blitz and every drop back, and I'm going to play man coverage. Now, when you do this game plan, it's kind of interesting because the receivers you play man coverage against, especially with a bruised and battled, defense, they're missing at least like 10 plus players on defense. This man said, I am going to blitz and play man with a bunch of players missing and Meek Robertson against Justin Jefferson. Meek Robinson and Justin Jefferson have been going up against each other since, high school and college and now the NFL. And he put the straps on him. He put the absolute straps on him. And, it was definitely a high risk, high reward game plan. But, I mean, it worked, man. It definitely worked. You know, the red zone, Vikings were awful in the red zone. Awful, awful. Sam Darnold did obviously not have his best night. They made him uncomfortable all game. And I would have liked to see Kevin O'Connell, make some better throws and build his confidence through the game. Maybe, dial up some screens or dial up some quick short passes. But it just didn't seem like they wanted to do that. They didn't even run the ball that well, if I'm mistaken. And in the red zone, they opted not to run the ball at all in those first few possessions. I think honestly that, there is some level of concern for the Vikings going into the postseason because the Lions kind of put the blueprint out to beat Sam Darnold. But it's just all credit to the Lions defensive game plan. I thought, they put an absolute clinic against their offense. I just think that Sam Darnold in the red zone, he was bad. Like there were some plays where the Lions didn't blitz, where they played man. And it's like I'm watching some of the plays. He had Addison open a few times. Jefferson was open a few times, and he just overthrew them. They were just sailed throws, and he sailed Hawkinson a few times. So I just think that the Lions made him uncomfortable all night, and that was the game plan. That he was going to hold on to the ball, and when he holds on the ball and you speed him up, he's going to be uncomfortable, and that's what the game plan was. They just executed a flawless game plan, and just all credit to Aaron Glenn. And it's so annoying watching the Lions play, honestly, offensively, because it just seems like Jared Goff just never gets touched. It's so annoying. I mean, maybe because I'm an Eagles fan and I want to see them lose and I want us to get to the top, but it's just annoying how they play offense because they're that good. Gibbs went off. He had like 4 touchdowns and like 107 yards of total offense. He's a dog. But Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, they're both gone. So, the Lions, it's kind of like you better win the Super Bowl because you don't want to, have another year where you waste, the opportunity of winning a Super Bowl with these 2 elite coordinators. So, it was definitely um, a good game plan for the Lions. And some concerns, for the Vikings is, do they lose some momentum going into the playoffs? Because now, when you ask the Vikings, now you have to, travel on the road from Minnesota, go all the way to the West Coast on a short, and then they're gonna have a short week if they potentially beat the Rams, which they could lose that game. The Rams already beat them before, but they have to travel all the way on across the country now. And then if you win, you have to travel all the way back. And then you're potentially maybe playing Detroit again on a short week. That game had everything, man. It was everything. It was totally everything, to the advantage of who was gonna win and who was gonna lose. And, but the Vikings have an opportunity to bounce back. I think they can bounce back. The Vikings Rams game is definitely gonna be a really good game. But Aaron Glenn put an absolute clinic, and it was good to see two of the best coordinators go at it too, with Ben Johnson and Brian Flores. Ben Johnson, absolutely. They just have better coordinators. That's the thing. Their coordinators. I feel like the Lions have got to win the Super Bowl this year to make the most out of their coordinators, because both of them are gone next year. They're both gone. So you're gonna have to. We'll see. They have to make the most out of it, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And another thing that I want to move on to after another big Week 18 game is Tyreek Hill. Now Tyreek Hill is in the headlines for his drama for after his post game comments, and we're gonna take a look at what he said. Share the screen, and we're gonna take a look at what he said.
Not getting to 1,000 yards.
It is what it is, man. It's life, man. I feel like at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that I need to reassess about, career and, just see what I need to do, to continue to get better, as a player, so I can continue to reach that 1,000-yard mark. Is what it is.
What do you think is the biggest reason the team finished 8-9?
I would say for me, man, as a captain, it was a tough season, man. It sucks, man, missing QB1, man. It really hurts a lot, man. Not having him, but Snoop did a great job of filling in whenever he learned the offense, getting us going. But whenever you're missing, your franchise player, man, it kind of sucks. So.
As a captain, what was the
This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So, for me, like I said, man, I just got to do what's best for me and my family, dog. If that's here, or that's wherever the case may be, man, I'm finna open that door for myself, dog. As I'm opening the door, I'm out, bro. So it was great playing here, but, at the end of the day, bro, I got to do what's best for my career and, what's best. Because I'm too much of a competitor to be, out there. If it is, hey.
Now that was Tyreek Hill after the post game after losing to the Jets. The Dolphins were eliminated from playoff contention. They had to have the Broncos lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs, they rested their starters. They had nothing to play for. The Broncos beat down the Chiefs. They beat down their backups. But the Jets were playing the Dolphins, and the Dolphins lost to the Jets. Final game of the season for them. And Tyreek, basically, he took himself out of the game. A lot of people were like, oh, well, he quit on his team, this and the other. How can he do that? Look, the guy played every game this season. He put his body on the line for the team when with the backup quarterback majority of the season. And, they have nothing left to play for. So I don't blame him for, wanting to keep himself from getting hurt potentially. And they were losing, so they got nothing to play for. But that video is very telling that he wants out of Miami. Tyreek Hill wants out of Miami. And I'm going to tell you something. Tyreek Hill, you played yourself. You absolutely played yourself. This man, 3 years ago, decided that he wanted to leave the Kansas City Chiefs, a great situation, a championship contending team. You were playing with a Hall of Fame, one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. You were playing for a Hall of Fame head coach. You were playing with a Hall of Fame tight end. And you decided that you wanted more money. The Chiefs, said, he wanted more money from the Chiefs, and the Chiefs asked him to restructure his contract. So he said no, and he wants more money. So the Chiefs were like, okay, we'll do that. And basically, they couldn't come to agreement, so he decided to leave, and he decided to make more money and play in a warmer weather state and city and South Beach. He took his talents there, and he said that was more of an accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes. He said that Tua was just as good as Patrick Mahomes. He said that he can win just as how he could with the Chiefs, with the Dolphins. And now, realizing after 3 years, in that interview, he said, well, I'm out. I do the best for my family, this, that, and the other. Dude, you're making $28 million a season, $25 to $28 million a season. You said you wanted to leave. Now, we all knew that this was never going to work out. Since you've been in the Miami Dolphins, you have A, not won a playoff game. 2, your quarterback has been an injury prone, and majority of the time he's been out. First of all, in the first season, you didn't even finish the season with him. The playoffs, you played with a backup quarterback. The second year, I think he played every game. But Tua, they didn't have a winning record against good teams. They did not beat a single good team last year. And then this year, Tua was hurt again for a majority of the season, and you didn't even reach 1,000 yards. You weren't even the focal point of the offense. It was Devon Achane and Jonnu Smith who was the focal point of the offense. You didn't even reach 1,000 yards. You didn't even make the Pro Bowl, and you didn't make the playoffs. After all that, after all saying Tua was more of an accurate quarterback than Patrick Mahomes, he took the Chiefs he disrespected the Chiefs many times after leaving the Dolphins. And what did the Chiefs do after they traded you? Well, that's right. They won 2 Super Bowls back to back, on the quest for winning another Super Bowl at 15-2, on the quest for going back to back to back without you. And on top of that, last season, they beat you in the playoffs. So you decided to go to a team that is terrible in cold weather, can't beat winning teams, a quarterback who's injury prone, a team that's constantly owned by the Buffalo Bills, a head coach who honestly completely doesn't really show like good head coaching qualities, and you didn't even reach 1,000 yards. You didn't even make the Pro Bowl. But hey, you collecting that check, brother. You collecting that check. And now you want out? Tyreek Hill, you played yourself. And now, at the age, what are you, 30 now? And you're requesting a trade and you're out? I don't even know who would want to take on your contract, and what team would realistically want you. I don't think the Chiefs would want you back. If he says, I want to go back to Kansas City, I don't think Kansas City would want you back. Why should they want you back? They're winning without you. They're on their hunt for the 3rd Super Bowl in a row without you. And they could potentially get it. It's just sometimes these receivers have too much of an ego. And, you just made one of the biggest mistakes of your career. That's one of the biggest regrets of your career. You're a Hall of Fame receiver, no doubt about it. You're one of the best receivers of this generation. But you weren't loyal to the soil. You could have taken less money with the Kansas City Chiefs. You could have continued competing for championships each and every season while playing with one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and a Hall of Fame head coach. You could have, and you were chasing yards and records, and the Chiefs were chasing wins. You could have, let's say, like 1,500 yards, 1,400 yards a season, maybe 1,300 yards a season, and you're winning championships. That's all that matters. And you said, no, I want more yards, I want more money, I want this, and it backfired. Tyreek Hill, you played yourself. Now, I hope you do get the trade out of Miami, because, the Dolphins are just a mess, and they always continue to be a mess. I think them paying Tua was a mistake, because he's just injured. He's injury prone, and he's never good in the big time games. He was awful against Kansas City last year. They're not good in cold weather games, and they just aren't good against good teams. So, and they're constantly beat by the Buffalo Bills every season. You played yourself, Tyreek. You played yourself. And now you want to change your Twitter profile to your face on Antonio Brown when he was leaving his last game of the season. It's kind of childish, if you ask me. And your Twitter profile says leader and all that stuff. It's kind of childish, to be honest. Kind of childish. You're no leader. You are a fraud. You're just a fraud. You just look, man. You had a great situation. Your agent wanted more money, and now you won't win another Super Bowl in your career. It's gonna be one of the biggest regrets I've ever seen an NFL player make. So that's why Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady and those guys, like, they take less money so that the team, they can build around him and they can build around them so they continue winning championships each and every season, you know? And that's just one of the biggest mistakes of your career. It's tough, and you're gonna have to live it. You're gonna have to live with it. Now, moving on to the next topic, especially with the NFL season ending, especially the day after, the final week of the season, Black Monday, where NFL head coaches are typically fired or let go. Some decisions, Gerard Mayo being fired, Antonio Pierce got fired from the Raiders. Gerard Mayo got fired. That was one of the quickest firings I've ever seen. The Patriots fired that man after his press conference. It was over for him after that. I mean, look, he definitely, costed them the number one pick, but I don't think it would have really mattered because I think, some team would have probably traded up with him. He was like, look, man, I'm going out with a bang. I know I'm getting fired, so I'm trying to win this game and ruin their number one pick chances. Hey, I respect that. But they didn't even make him, he didn't even last till the next day. I'm like, Dak, they fired him right after the press conference? Shoot, that's crazy. They're like, you're out. And but the thing is, like, I would have liked to see him, have another opportunity next season with a better roster. I mean, the same thing with Antonio Pierce. I don't know why I understand like he wasn't good, and Gerard Mayo was saying the team is soft and, the team is like, not great. We're not playing well. I know he called the team out multiple times, but the roster was terrible. It was terrible. The only thing to look forward, the only positive on that team was their rookie quarterback. And the Raiders, I don't understand firing Antonio Pierce. I don't really, maybe because he ruined the number one pick chances why I got fired, but that roster was god awful. And he didn't even have a quarterback. So I don't know why they fired. And they traded Devontae Adams, mid-season. So there was nothing on that roster to look forward to. Nothing positive at all, except for Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is something to look forward to. But, after the Raiders drafted 2 tight ends back-to-back seasons, the GM got to stay and he got to go. The roster was garbage. I don't really get firing Antonio Pierce. This is the second time the Raiders have fired 2 head coaches in back-to-back seasons. Firing McDaniels made perfect sense, it was first year coaching. I don't really get that. Some of these NFL teams fire these coaches prematurely because they have no experience and terrible rosters. It's like that. I'm like, all right. So the Raiders have to go and find somebody. I don't know who would want to take that job right now because 1, you don't have a quarterback. 2, the roster's garbage, and there's just so much uncertainty. The Patriots, there's a little bit more certainty because they have a high draft pick, maybe, and you have a quarterback, right? So there's some level of excitement there with that job. The Jaguars, though, they let go of Doug Peterson, which completely understandable. I mean, I'm an Eagles fan. I love Dougie P, but he had to go. But I don't understand why it took him the last game of the season, though. They should have fired Doug Peterson like literally 2 months ago, maybe even a month ago. He should have been gone a long time ago. I don't know why they waited so long to fire him. But keeping Trent Baalke, really? Why? Why does Trent Baalke get to stay? This is like the 3rd or 4th year, 3 in the last 4 years where the Jaguars have a top 5 pick. And his free agent signings have been so disappointing. Gabe Davis, terrible. A bunch of other decisions, terrible. The only thing that he did right was drafting Trevor Lawrence, which was so obvious because they didn't want to pull our pick, and drafting Brian Thomas Jr., who's a dog, who's really, really good. But you drafted Trayvon Walker over Aiden Hutchinson. Why does Trent Baalke get to stay? The Jaguars would have had some level of excitement, if they fired the GM and the head coach, because the Jaguars have kind of a young roster and there's some positive pieces on that team. Franchise quarterback, good receiver, right? You got some young talent, on both sides of the ball. It would have been an exciting opportunity, but now like Trent Baalke, their head coach, is going to be a little bit like turned away because he's such a bad GM. Nobody really is going to want to work for him. And Shad Khan, I just think he's kind of ruining this franchise, and there's the next head coach is going to have to report to him. Kind of weird. I think he's kind of ruined the team a little. He's ruined the team and the franchise. The Jaguars are just kind of stuck in this purgatory where they're just not good. They're just not good. I mean, last year they were 8-3 and they had a collapse. Year before that, they made the playoffs, won the playoff game. But the year before, they've just been a bad, awful franchise. And especially Trent Baalke, hiring Urban Meyer. And there's just so many bad things with that franchise. Keeping Trent Baalke was a mistake. You could have had the opportunity to get, Ben Johnson and bring him with one of their front offices from Detroit to Jacksonville. And Detroit's front office's organization has been world class the past couple of years. But that was a mistake. I don't know why Trent Baalke got to stay. I really, really don't get that. And Shad Khan is just kind of destroying this franchise. The Jaguars are just going to be stuck. Another 4-win season where they're picking top 5 once again. They don't have them more to pick, but I don't know. And Trevor had a pretty bad year and he got hurt and he didn't play the rest of the year. It's tough. And meanwhile, over in Dallas, so much drama there. Jerry Jones, the more he speaks, the more it shows that he doesn't know what he's doing. The backup quarterback, Cooper Rush, had a $500,000 incentive if he played more snaps. I believe it was like 53 point something, and he was like right under it. And they elected to play Trey Lance. How did you not know and he said he didn't have an incentive. He didn't know that he had an incentive. You're the general manager of the team. How did you not know that he had an incentive? You're the one making the contract. There's usually a team of people that come before the game and say, hey guys, Stephon Diggs has to get 40 more yards and he has $1 million incentive bonus to his contract if he reaches this amount of yards. Or if Cooper, there's usually people that tell you. How did you not know? See, the more time that Jerry Jones speaks, the more it tells the people and us that he doesn't know a thing about football. That's why hasn't won anything the past 30 years. But hey, keep going, Jerry. I want you to keep that general manager job as an Eagles fan because we love it. And especially with Mike McCarthy. I mean, it is just wild. He wants him back, right? He wants him back. But the Bears requested an interview for him. I think the Bears' job is probably right now the best job in the NFL because they have a young quarterback and some nice offensive pieces. But they got to build the offensive line. And Ryan Poles, I think, should go. I think Ryan Poles should be fired. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Ryan Poles has really done to keep his job, except for that one big trade he made for DJ Moore and Caleb Williams and those draft picks. But other than that, dude, this man traded a 2nd-round draft pick for Chase Claypool. And he didn't, and for a guy who's been an offensive lineman, right, he doesn't really, he didn't really build a good offensive line for his rookie quarterback. He focused more on the playmakers. And Caleb was sacked, I believe, the most in the NFL this year. It was like 3-step drop back, and he's already getting pressure in his face. I mean, that whole offensive line is awful. I mean, I forgot the right. Tevin Jenkins, I believe. No, not Tevin Jenkins. Darnell Wright was pretty good, right tackle. But other than that, there's guys that shouldn't even be on a roster starting on that offensive line. Yeah, but that Bears job is pretty coveted. And Mike McCarthy, the Bears put a request to interview him, and the Cowboys haven't responded. And Jerry was basically saying, he should go out and interview for jobs. But who's really calling the shots? Mike McCarthy, it's so weird because if I was a head coach, working for Jerry Jones, I mean, Mike McCarthy is not an elite head coach. He's not some otherworldly elite head coach, but he's a good coach though. He's won in this league, he's won a Super Bowl, the last year Dak had a career year. The offense was fantastic. I mean, they blundered in the playoffs, but like he's a good head coach. I'm not saying he's great, but it just seems like the head coaching job for the Cowboys, you don't really have a lot of control. It's just really Jerry. It's just Jerry. He's Jerry Jones, the head coach. It's the head coach of an NFL football team. Usually, he's in the decisions of who we're drafting, who we're signing, who we're cutting, which guys are being hired. Like you just don't have that control. You just don't have that control at all. And you know, it's a shame because Jerry just is just in his own way, and he just doesn't know how to win anymore. I mean, he said that he was all in last year, all in, didn't sign anybody, didn't make any trades, had a poor draft class, and he waited absolutely last minute to re-sign his quarterback, missed the market, now they had to pay $60 million for Dak. And that was right before the season even started. It was it was literally the day of when the season started when they announced that he signed that contract extension. Same with CeeDee Lamb, missed the market there. He had to be like close to $30 million. I mean, like, he's just not a good GM. He's just not. And, if I was Mike McCarthy, I think he kind of has some leverage here because there isn't really, like, who else is Jerry going to go out? Who else is Jerry Jones going to go out and get for the head coaching job? There isn't, and especially how it's kind of stirring away from like a lot of the people, who want this job because Jerry Jones basically saying it's a privilege to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But, he's kind of stirring a lot of people and free agents and players away from him because he's just showing whenever he speaks, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But hey, I love it. I'm an Eagles fan. I love it, man. Keep messing up your own franchise that, you're a great owner. I think he's a Hall of Fame owner. They're the most valuable franchise in all of sports in the world. But as a general manager, he just isn't really good. He's not a really good, general manager, and he's kind of messing up his own team. He's messing up his own flow, and a lot of Cowboys fans are starting to realize that he's the problem. And when it's his time to go, it's the Jones. There's a lot of nepotism, with that franchise. Unless somebody other than the Jones family member, and that will never happen, will come in and run the team and fix the team and build the team, it won't happen. The only two head coaches that ever, stepped up to him was obviously Jimmy Johnson. They had beef for years, and Bill Parcells, but everyone else has just kind of been a puppet. This is kind of a puppet. So next season, I don't expect much from him either. Still, I think they'll still be they're a mediocre team. I don't think he's gonna do anything in free agency still because their cap space is very limited because they paid Dak Prescott a lot of money. They paid CeeDee Lamb a lot of money, and they're gonna have to pay Micah Parsons a lot of money. So they're just kind of stuck in this situation, and Jerry Jones has put himself in the situation. So, oh well. But, you lost, but continue to do this because my Eagles will just continue beating you guys. I mean, our three quarterbacks absolutely beat you down, and I loved it. I loved it. So, yeah. So we'll see. I think McCarthy will probably come back to Dallas next year. But he doesn't have a contract right now. He's pretty much like a free agent head coach. But the Cowboys haven't responded to the Bears allowing him to interview for the job. And he should absolutely take that interview. He should. I don't think the Bears will hire him, but he should take that interview. Now, especially let's go to the wild card predictions. The wild card is this weekend, wild card weekend. So one of my favorite, weekends of the season. And there's going to be a lot of good games. There's going to be a lot of good games this weekend, and playoff time is easily one of my favorite times of the season. We're playing in the wild card weekend, which I kind of wish we had to buy, but let's take a look at this bracket. So that's what I was saying. These are my official wild card predictions. This is the first wild card weekend of the season, of the playoff season. Week one of the playoffs, wild card weekends, kind of my favorite because it's, anything could happen. There's a bunch of upsets that could happen. The first game is 4:30 on Saturday. The Chargers against the Texans. Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. I think, as I said before, Jim Harbaugh would definitely be coach of the year because the Chargers, didn't have a lot of talent this year, but he's a great coach. He comes in and just wins. First year took him to the playoffs. Didn't have a lot of talent, but they're very well coached, and Jim Harbaugh is an elite head coach at any level, college or NFL. Texans they're bruised, they're injured, very injured team. I have the Chargers winning 27-17. This offense hasn't been great. Bobby Slowick has been regressed mightily this year. I think they've had more film on C.J. Stroud this season, and they're just down a lot of receivers. Tank Dell, with ACL, both knee injuries. Nico, who's a dog, but I don't think that's enough, to beat the Chargers. I think the Chargers with Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey are so underrated. I think in 2017 in Houston, they win the first game, and this game is on Amazon Prime. The Ravens and the Steelers. The Steelers are just a mess. With George Pickens and everything, they're just a mess, man. George Pickens probably had the worst game I've ever seen a receiver play. He had like 6 targets, 3 drops, and no yards. And it just seems like every Steelers team just has like receivers with drama. AB, Claypool, and now Pickens, Dante Johnson. It just seems like every receiver the Steelers has that Mike Tomlin has, they just are like, they're just drama. They're just so much drama. Steelers offense has been terrible. Ravens are hot, and Lamar is the MVP, in my opinion. Lamar Jackson should absolutely win the MVP. Now that's something we'll talk about. Yeah, I think the Ravens should win this comfortably at home. No Zay Flowers though, and that's why you rest your starters week 18. Rest your starters week 18. He got hurt, and I don't think he's playing this game. But without Zay Flowers, I think they still beat the Steelers 31-17. They're getting hot right at the right time. As long as they just run Derrick Henry and Lamar does his thing, they're going to win this game. And the Steelers will have a 5-game losing streak to end their season. It brings the question to Mike Tomlin's career as a Steeler. I mean, Steelers head coach. I just don't think they're just good enough to win anything in the playoffs. Bills and the Broncos. The Broncos finally snuck into the playoffs. They haven't been in the playoffs in like 10 years. 2015 was the last time I think they were in the playoffs when the Sheriff Peyton Manning, won a Super Bowl. And after that, they won a 10-year drought. But, with Sean Payton and Bo Nix, they have something to look forward to now. They finally have a quarterback. Bo Nix is an older rookie, but, they finally have a quarterback. And Sean Payton has brought them back to respectability. I'm going with the Bills, though. Josh Allen has been unreal, otherworldly, elite, MVP candidate. He's been outstanding all season. I'm going with the Bills, but I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout. I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. I think the Broncos are playing with house money. I think their defense is really good. Their defense is really, really good. I think they led the league in sacks this year. They got Pat Surtain, who's one of the best, cornerbacks in the entire NFL. I mean, they play really good as a unit under Vance Joseph. But I think the Bills win because they're at home and Highmark Stadium. It's cold. It's cold. It snows, and the Bills have that as an advantage. So I'm going with the Bills 28-20. And next game at 4, my Eagles are playing the Packers. And I think we're going to win this game. There's some people are talking about level of concern with Jalen, still in concussion protocol, but I'm not worried about that. I think it's actually been good that he's had, rest the past couple of weeks because he needs it. And, he'll be fresh and ready to go. You need that. You need to have health. And I think, a lot of people are saying like, wow, he's still in concussion protocol. I think the best kept secret is the Eagles wanted him to keep. I think honestly, he probably would have played last week against the Giants, but I think the Eagles were like, look, man, just take it easy. We want you ready for the playoffs. I think that's what, they wanted to do because they had 2 games that were like easy opponents, the Cowboys and the Commanders. They're like, just take it easy. They know he's gonna be ready for the playoffs. And if he doesn't play, I think Kenny Pickett and McKee can beat the Packers. The Packers, they lost some players on their last game of the season, and the Packers, if they didn't have that blocked field goal against the Bears, they would have been 0-6 in their division this year. 0-6. So, and we already beat them week 1, but I know it's completely different. Both teams are completely different. I just think we have the better advantage at everywhere. So I think we're just a better team. I think we should win this game pretty comfortably. 27-17. Packers they haven't been very good against good teams this year. They've been good against like mediocre and bad teams this year. I'm not saying they're fraudulent. I just think that, they just haven't been great against good teams this year. Especially they lost Christian Watson, so they're down one of their, their best receivers and their big-time targets. Now they haven't been great against good teams, and they're coming to Philly. Especially Jordan Love, he's hurt too, coming into against an elite defense. We're winning that game. And if with Saquon and AJ, we're winning that game, man. And everyone's going to be healthy. We're winning that. And this is going to be a great matchup. Buccaneers and the Commanders right here, a Sunday night game. Let Big cook. Come on, Big Show. I hate the Commanders. I hated the Cowboys a lot. I hate the Cowboys a lot, but the Commanders have risen up to my level of hatred in the NFC East. Dude, these fans talk so much trash on Twitter and whatnot. Look, if they weren't so clutch this year, they have like 7 wins. Let's just be for real. They would have like 7 wins. It took a last second throw to beat the Cowboys, who we beat by like 30 with our backups. And we had Mari. Jaden Daniels only scored 3 points in the first half. Kenny Pickett on broken ribs scored 24 in the first half against that same defense. And their starters, except for Jaden Daniels, played in the second half, and they started scoring points. Took a last second throw to beat them. Yeah, give me the Commanders, but I think it'll be close though. The Commanders have been one of the clutch teams in the NFL this year. It's so annoying. It's so infuriating, but they're gonna win. The Bucs are gonna win because they're at home. Baker's cooking. They have a good defense. They have a great defensive head coach and Todd Bowles, great offensive coordinator. I forget his name, but he's new, but he's been really good. Bucky Irvin, super underrated. Mike Evans is always consistent, and it'll be interesting. Mike Evans and Lattimore part like 10. But I think the Bucs are going to win this game. They're home, they're winning, and the Rams versus the Vikings. The Vikings have to travel. This is going to be a tough game for the Vikings, but I think the Vikings will win, but it'll be close because the Rams are one of those hot and cold teams. It's which team are you getting? Are you getting the cold Rams who their offense isn't all that great? Or are you getting the hot Rams when they could put up like 40 on you? So it's just, how Stafford plays and how they play. They're either really hit or miss, to be honest. And I think they'll be cold. And the Vikings will want to bounce back. Their defense has been fantastic. Their defense has been sensational. And their offense has been sensational. So the Vikings will win this game. That's my predictions. So those are my predictions for the wild card. I think that's going to happen. I think it will happen. And so that will happen. So I want to move on to my next topic, the NBA. Big drama in South Beach and Miami Heat culture with Jimmy Butler wanting to leave the Miami Heat. The Heat suspended him for 7 games due to team misconduct for basically just not like showing up to work and not playing his hardest and showing that he doesn't want to be on the team anymore. Can you blame them? No. Are both sides wrong with this? Pat Riley and the organization and Jimmy? Yeah, they both have at fault for this. Jimmy, he's at fault for wanting to leave, not playing his hardest and whatnot, and demanding to leave again and blowing up the whole situation. He's been injured, and just not like, I feel like he's not like caring enough in the regular season, but he has some right to this because I feel like, Pat Riley has done him wrong, the past few years, because Jimmy has carried the Heat in their playoff. When they made the playoffs in his tenure as a Heat, he's the ultimate reason why they've gotten to where they've gone. He's been to 2 finals, 3 Eastern Conference Finals appearances, and he was every bit of the reason why they were there. And Jimmy was like, he wants out because he knows the team isn't good enough to win a championship. And he knows the team isn't good enough for him to win. Like, you know, when they made the finals, the team wasn't good enough to beat Denver. So Jimmy's like, yo, like, help me out. I need like another superstar player. And Pat Riley, I feel like, has done him wrong. The Heat just aren't like a destination, I guess, for superstar players anymore. Because I feel like every time like one of these superstar NBA players, wants out of the situation, one of the top teams they want to go to, the top of the list is the Heat. KD wanted to go to the Heat. It was between the Heat and the Suns. Dame wanted to go to the Heat. Bradley Beal wanted to go to the Heat. Kyrie wanted to go to the Heat. I feel like they've missed out on so many opportunities to give Jimmy some help, and the team just isn't good enough to win a championship. It just hasn't. And Jimmy asked for a contract extension last year. I think the relationship kind of fractured when Pat Riley was taking a shot at him at the exit interview last year when he went, well, he shouldn't be talking about the Knicks or the Celtics. He should, just shut up and play. That would stir anybody the wrong way. But Jimmy's the reason why your franchise is back to relevancy, Pat Riley. You just didn't give him help. That's the issue. You didn't give him any superstar. The Bucks got Dame, the Heat, the Suns got, and they had assets. I would have traded Hero for Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant. They had the assets to do it, and they didn't. So, I feel like he's, especially with the situation and suspending him was like I don't know why they suspended him. I don't know. I really don't know why he made no sense at all, because I don't know. But I feel like Pat Riley is, he's putting these superstars away to come to the team, because I just feel like, he's not treating Jimmy the right way. Didn't want to pay him, and he said he didn't want to trade him at first. And Jimmy went on, record saying that I don't have joy playing basketball here. I want to leave. And he wants to go to the Suns, which I don't know if the Suns even have enough assets for him. It would be Bradley Beal for the Heat, for Jimmy Butler, and the Heat don't even want him. So I don't even think the Suns even have enough assets or players or trade market value for Jimmy, because they used up all of it for Kevin Durant. And I just don't, I don't really think, it would even work out, to be honest, if he went to the Suns. I think the Suns are a mess too. They're a mess. It's just, I think, this whole situation is a mess. It's just weird. I think for sure that Pat Riley's at fault for some of this too, because he's just, shoving some superstars away, and he didn't help him. And Jimmy's been part of the reason why the Heat have been to the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times, been to the finals twice, beating the Celtics twice. Part of the reason why he's done it, but he's just not like, I just don't think he's really helped him out and giving him another player, another superstar to compete for championships. And Jimmy wants to be a Heat for the rest of his career. And I just think the relationship is fractured. I think he'll be traded, but I don't think it'll be the Suns, because the Suns aren't really, and the Heat want to trade him too, so they're interested in trading him. But I just don't think, the Heat have really, the Suns don't really have a lot of trade market for him. Maybe Dallas does, but who you can give up? He said, I think it was like the Warriors wanted a star player, but I wouldn't go for Jimmy. Jimmy and Draymond in a locker room would be kind of weird. I don't think I would mesh very well with Jimmy and Draymond. Yeah. Let's see what happens there. I think he does get traded before the deadline for sure. And coming up, this is my final topic of, the final segment of the show, where I want to discuss my top fives. So this is a segment called Top 5 of the Week, and Top 5 of the show, Timeout with Makali. And these are my top 5, my favorite top 5 shows of all time. Now, you can disagree, but your list isn't comparable to mine. Number 5, my favorite show, one of my favorite shows of all time, one of my favorite kid Disney shows of all time, Casey Undercover with Zendaya. It's just always a classic. If you wanted to find a good, kid show, not even PG rated, like G rated show, Casey Undercover is easily one of my favorite shows of all time. I've watched like every episode like at least 10 times. One of my favorite shows of all time. That's number 5. Coming at number 4, The Flash. The Flash is also one of the classics, the CW show. The first 2 seasons are some of the best seasons I've ever watched and ever produced in television. With Barry, becoming the Flash and becoming, a superhero, and his story is incredible. And having the team, help him become a superhero. And the villains too, Reverse Flash and Zoom, you gotta check it out. The first 2 seasons are bangers. Bangers. I mean, absolute goat seasons. But after season 2, after like season 4, it's just not, it's not the greatest, because every CW show after like season like 3 or 4, they drag out the seasons and it just doesn't become good. But the first 2 seasons of Flash are some of the best I've ever seen. Number 3, this is like a comedy show, ABC, one of those like interview like comedy shows. Number 3, Modern Family. Modern Family is, in my opinion, one of the GOAT comedy shows. You know, I've watched every episode and I've seen the show a bunch of times. I've rewatched, like, it takes a while to rewatch, but Modern Family, top 3 for me, definitely. Another one of those great sit-down comedy shows. And they're Crazy Family, definitely Modern Family. So number 3. And then number two, The Office, another comedy, like, sit-down interview show. But The Office is a bit better than Modern Family. I think The Office has better characters, than Modern Family. And they have more like iconic episodes than Modern Family. So The Office, definitely, and the story with Jim and Pam and Michael Scott, and I have a Dwight Schrute little snow cone too. So The Office, number 2, I've seen that show like a few times as well. Number 1, I finished the show this past spring and summer. The Sopranos. I think The Sopranos is like one of the GOAT TV shows. I think it's one of the greatest television shows of all time. It's a mobster show following the Sopranos and the life of Tony Soprano, the mobster boss. I'm currently rewatching it right now, but definitely the Sopranos, definitely my favorite show of all time. Probably my favorite show of all time. It's just like a goated show. Definitely would recommend watching it. And that is my, my top 5s of the show and the week. And that's going to be it for another episode of Timeout with Makali. Please do not forget to subscribe and leave a comment below and your thoughts. And I'll see you in the next show. Peace.